Mali and electric motors, counterfeit NSK bearings, brake-by-wire, a little bit more information, canoe, and we're not talking about a boat, speed limiters, DPD electric transits, car tax in Switzerland, Pagani supercars. Hello, I'm Paul and welcome to this week's MotorZen news. Mali, which is a name that we traditionally associate with pistons, rods, rings, heavy engine components. In fact, I was in a place only the other day and they're building a V8 Scania engine and all components, the engine components going in were Mali. They diversified in the last couple of years into motors. Obviously they were seeing the dying off of traditional combustion engines. They now say they're after introducing a revolutionary motor, new technologies, new concepts, superior continuous torque electric motor, SCT. What's interesting about this is it's got its own integrated cooling system. It's saying that its level of efficiency at high load is greater than traditional motors. It can operate under a high load, high torque for much longer periods of time, much more efficiently. It's using neodymium magnets in it, which is the strongest magnets in existence. But interestingly then, they say that this motor can run without magnets. They have a concept that sets it up without magnets because they're saying that they're concerned about the availability of these rare earths like neodymium, that it may not be available, and if it's not available they have an option to run the motor without it. So they have given the two options. They're saying that this motor can be used in all vehicles, cars, trucks, farming, construction. So it's a little bit like probably sometimes when we see now the components that are in a car, possibly you could start to see that many manufacturers now will start to use this Mali motor. So you'll have lots of people produce cars or produce implements or produce machines, but it all could come back to using this Mali motor. Counterfeit parts becoming a bit of an issue here and there. We're seeing and hearing NSK bearings have discovered a consignment of bearings in South Africa that are counterfeit using their branding. But what they're saying is, and I think this is a scary one because I think you could end up building a gearbox or building a component someday and discover you've got problems with it that's due to the fact that the supplier that you're dealing with supplied you with parts that were inferior, even though you took them out of an NSK box, for example, and you thought, well, that's a good quality bearing. A couple of simple things to check for is, they're saying to check to see if the part number is etched into the bearing itself, and also that the branding logo is incorrect on the box. So these are things I think we have to become very aware of, because some of these components are critical, and if they fail, there's a big mess for everybody involved. Last week we spoke about the brake-by-wire system, and we had some interest and some questions about it. So there's a link down below to an article that was in Professional Motor Mechanic magazine in conjunction with electronics, and it's a very good breakdown on how the system works. But quickly trying to understand it and work it out, and you're using a Hall effect sensor on the brake pedal, so it's measuring the travel of the pedal. But interestingly, the pedal itself will actually be connected to a hydraulic cylinder, but the hydraulic cylinder won't do anything. It's simply to produce the feel. You will have a master cylinder, but that master cylinder will be incorporated into the ABS ESP ECU module. But the most interesting thing, again, last week when we looked at this, you were the angle I was coming on was that it's going to reduce the amount of components that goes in on the production line in manufacture. But the other angle from this article that we have a link down below too, is that they're saying that now we no longer depend on the driver to operate the brake. So as we start to become, obviously go towards more autonomous, the system now is also integratable with the car itself taking over, and the active systems in the car saying it's time to brake and it's deciding to brake. A company in America which we wouldn't have heard anything of here, and we might never have heard of them again, is a company called Canoe. It's one of these new EV startups, but they were starting producing vans. And there's a couple of names like this just crop up and you go, where did these guys come from? And this is one that could just have easily disappeared. But interestingly, they told their investors at the start of the year that they reckon they're in trouble. They're running out of cash and the future didn't look bright for the investors. Walmart in America has just taken these guys, saved them from the brink. They're after ordering 4,500 EV vans from them, which they reckon is going to be the saving of the company, with an option to buy 10,000 vans. So it goes to show that in this current environment of these new companies and these new organizations starting up, they can chew through lots of cash with the idea that we're going to be successful and not make it. Well, these guys came very close to not being successful. It looks like Walmart, which incidentally I think own Asda, who have stores in the north in England, so a very big concern. They seem to have taken these guys back from the brink. Look at that, you made it to the middle part again. So if you could, like, comment and subscribe. Intelligent speed assist will become mandatory on all new cars sold in Europe from this year on. And what does that mean? It's like a speed limiter, but not really a speed limiter. It's going to activate on any the cameras will pick up on the signs or the GPS to tell the vehicle what the speed limit is on the road you're on. From there, it will send a warning, be that warning audible or a vibration through the steering wheel, or lane assist will activate. But you can switch off the system, or you can, once you touch the brake, it will deactivate, but it will come back on every time you start the car. So I think this could be an option for guys that are doing a bit of mapping, in that I think we're going to see customers now going, can you turn that thing off, because it's driving me nuts, because it's going to be there all the time when you start up and you start to exceed the speed limit beyond what's on the signpost or beyond what the GPS is telling the car. So I think you're going to get customers going, can we do anything about this? It doesn't actually hold back the car, it doesn't stop you from exceeding that speed, but it is sending you all this warnings and activity out, which I think will become very annoying when it starts out on these new cars when they hit the market. DPD, who currently have 51 electric vans, have done a deal to buy another 110 e-transits. They deliver 4,000 parcels a day by electric vans. The transit will travel 317 kilometers on one charge, and they're saying that's 3 times the average distance that their vans travel on any given day. So really looks like the electric van seems to be a very good fit for these companies. Remains to be seen. Interestingly, what they're saying is that they reckon they're going to have a 40% saving on servicing. And that's the one there that really stands out to me, is that there's 40% of business here that would have been occurring on these vans is not going to occur. Remains to be seen whether the vans are going to work out, but 317 kilometers is the range. They're saying that's 3 times the average driving that a van does on a given day. So we'll watch this space and see how that goes. And again, something that's constantly said out there about electric cars and they're not going to work, and people saying, oh well, you see when they tax them, and you're going, they won't really tax them. Well, in Switzerland, they are currently going through government with the idea that they're going to have to tax EVs. Basically because the market share of EVs has become so big in Switzerland. EVs were 14.3% of the market in 20, they're 22.5% of the market in 21. Petrol and diesel was at 71% in 20, and now it's down to 55. So they're actually noticing now that they've got a problem in revenue. And okay, it's not going to really affect other countries or us here in Ireland until such time as we get the volumes up. But really, that comment that people say, oh, wait till we see, wait till there's more numbers of these things and we'll see the government get at the tax side of things. It does look like it's going to happen, and there's going to be a normal taxation system coming on these cars. When you see a country like Sweden who's saying, right, we're going to have to do something about this, we're losing too much revenue by not being able to get tax on cars. They're talking about introducing a system which is a charge per kilometre. So the more you drive, the more you pay. And to end the show this week, going back to old school engines, old school pistons, rods, camshafts, Pagani, which is up there or beyond Ferrari on supercars. Pagani, who is owned by the owner's name, Horacio Pagani, has come out and said that EV won't work for their super hyper performance cars. He said the battery was coming in at 600 kilos. Their Wyra current model, high performance model, weighs 1,070 kilos. He says the battery's too heavy, it won't work. He even bought a Tesla to drive it, to experience it, to see what was it with these electric vehicles. He's saying that electric vehicles must be more than just performance. He's saying that the feel, the sense, the sound is all part of owning a car like a Pagani. So just to give you an example of that, we're going to add a video in here at the end which shows them running their Mercedes V12s, because that's the engine they use. That's the engine they're going to use now until, I think, the performance, hyper performance manufacturers have been given until 2035 that they can continue to use internal combustion engines until 2035, and he's saying we're going to continue to use the Mercedes V12 until that time. And in the video we've added, if you just listen to it, you get what he, you know, okay, you can say it's old school and you have to change with the times, but when you hear these things, when you hear the engine on this thing, you say, how can EV ever replace this? So have a listen before you sign off on the video. And again, thanks for watching, and please, if you could, like, comment and subscribe. Really helps us. Thanks a lot. See you next week.